Deep beneath our oceans, buried inside mountains, and scattered across the oldest rocks on Earth, there are traces of something that shouldn't exist. Spheres made from rare metals, the kind used today in high-precision weapon systems. Radioactive isotopes that mirror the byproducts of nuclear fallout. And synthetic particles embedded in the deepest ice cores that look identical to plastic. But here's the problem, they're not ours. The metals, millions of years too old. The isotopes, from a time before humans ever walked the Earth. The plastic, found in sediment layers, laid down long before the rise of civilization. None of this makes sense. At least, not if we hold on to the belief that we are the first. The first species to build cities, split atoms, burn fossil fuels, invent computers, modify DNA, and think ourselves immune to the consequences of playing gods with nature. But what if we're wrong? What if Earth has been through this before? Not once, not twice, but dozens, maybe hundreds of times? Civilizations rising, achieving technological brilliance, transforming the world until something goes horribly wrong, and all that remains are anomalies, footprints in stone, ghosts in chemistry. Scientists used to laugh at this idea. Now, they're not so sure, because something chilling is starting to emerge in the geological record. Signatures, patterns, global changes in carbon chemistry, radioactive fallout, synthetic polymers, genetic manipulation. It's all there if you know what to look for. A strange convergence of clues from ice cores, rock strata, fossil records, quantum studies, and even outer space. And they lead to one shocking possibility. Humanity may not be the first advanced civilization to call this planet home. We might not even be the second. Today, we dive deep into the impossible but increasingly undeniable evidence of lost civilizations. Evidence that challenges not just archaeology, but our place in time itself. We'll explore the scars they left behind, the technology they may have created, and the mistakes we seem determined to repeat. From nuclear signatures, older than humans, to massive orbital structures drifting in space, and polymer particles embedded in 100 million year old amber. This isn't just science fiction. It's hard science, asking terrifying questions. Have others walked this earth before us, only to vanish without a trace? And if so, what destroyed them? Have we found their ruins already, misinterpreted as natural formations? And could we be next in line? This is a story of time, memory, and forgotten power. A story hidden deep within the earth, and maybe even deeper in our own DNA. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear may rewrite the entire history of our planet. Let's begin. Section 1. The iridium anomaly that started it all. Sometimes, Earth hides its greatest secrets in the thinnest of lines. In the 1,980 seconds, deep within the layered cliffs of Gubbio, Italy, a geologist named Walter Alvarez was searching for answers to one of science's most haunting mysteries. What exactly wiped out the dinosaurs? He wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He wasn't combing alien temples or decoding ancient maps. He was just studying limestone. Straightforward, scientific, until he found something that wasn't straightforward at all. There, between two bands of ancient sediment, was a narrow strip of dark clay, just a few centimeters thick. To the untrained eye, it was unremarkable. But chemically, it was unlike anything else in the sedimentary record. This small boundary layer, known today as the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, marked a global line in Earth's history. Below it, fossils of a vibrant world brimming with dinosaur life. Above it, a silence, a sudden extinction. Nearly 75% of all species gone. But it was what was inside that thin band that changed everything. Walter Alvarez, with the help of his father, Luis Alvarez, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, ran tests on that clay. What they found would spark decades of controversy, and a flood of new questions. Because that thin, dusty layer was loaded with iridium. Not double, not triple, but 30 times higher than normal Earth crust levels. Why does that matter? Because iridium is rare on Earth, almost non-existent in surface rocks. But in asteroids and meteors, it's abundant. So much so that it's often used as a cosmic fingerprint. You find iridium and something from space probably hit Earth, which is exactly what the Alvarezes proposed. Their theory shocked the scientific world. Around 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid more than 6 miles wide slammed into what's now the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact unleashed energy 1 billion times stronger than an atomic bomb. Fires, tsunamis, and a global cloud of debris that blocked sunlight for years. Photosynthesis collapsed. Temperatures plummeted. The food chain disintegrated. This, they claimed, is what killed the dinosaurs. And for decades, that was the end of the story. A cosmic accident. Tragic, but explainable. Until people started asking a different kind of question. Because if an asteroid left such an enormous, unmistakable mark on Earth's geological record, a blip of cosmic iridium that persisted for 65 million years, what kind of mark would we leave behind? We have changed the atmosphere, injected synthetic molecules into the oceans, created radioactive isotopes, altered DNA. Our legacy isn't just cultural, it's geological. And that raised a terrifying possibility. If a single asteroid could carve a scar deep enough for scientists to see it after 65 million years, then any civilization, even vaguely comparable to ours, should have done the same. So where are they? If human society left nothing behind but a few centuries of industrial activity, would future archaeologists from another species detect us? Actually, yes. Because many of our creations don't just vanish, they last. They bind to the Earth itself. Tiny plastic particles, isotope imbalances, unique metal alloys, elevated carbon levels, nuclear residue. We leave behind what scientists call technosignatures, chemical or geological signs of advanced industry. And if humans disappear tomorrow, those technosignatures would remain visible for tens of thousands, maybe even millions of years. Which raises a much more unsettling question. What if we've already found signs like that in Earth's crust? We just didn't recognize them for what they were. The iridium mystery kicked open that door because it proved that short, violent, planet-wide events don't just fade. They persist. They're logged in stone, layered into sediment like blood and paper. And as science began to re-examine the Earth's layers with new tools and more open minds, strange inconsistencies started popping up again and again, as if they'd been there the whole time, screaming to be noticed. Let's rewind. Before the iridium find, mass extinctions were often blamed on climate change, ocean, anoxia, or volcanic activity slow. Natural changes spread over thousands, even millions of years. Gradual death, not instant. But the iridium layer proved that Earth can record single-day planetary catastrophes in enduring geological scars. That's the key. Because if we can still find traces of one impact crater, one firestorm of iridium, then where are all the signs of modern humanity? And more importantly, where are the signs of anything like us that may have come before? This breakthrough led directly to something called the Silurian hypothesis, an idea proposed not in some fringe conspiracy journal, but in a serious academic paper published in the International Journal of Astrobiology. Its authors, Gavin Schmidt, director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, and Adam Frank, an astrophysicist from the University of Rochester. They asked a simple question. How would we know if an industrial civilization existed on Earth millions of years ago? Their answer? We probably wouldn't. Not unless we were specifically looking for chemical signals left in the atmosphere, the oceans, or deeply buried rock. Civilization, real civilization, could come and go in 10,000 years and vanish without a trace. Cities collapse, concrete erodes. Satellites fall and turn to dust. All surface evidence would be wiped away after just a few millennia. But what about the chemical breadcrumbs? The same kinds of clues the Alvarez team used to decode the dinosaur extinction? Enter carbon isotopes. When we burn fossil fuels, we release carbon into the atmosphere. Not just any carbon, but specifically carbon-1,2, due to the nature of long-dead plant material. This creates a measurable shift in the ratio between carbon-1,2 and carbon-13 inches, the air and oceans, a kind of fossil fuel fingerprint. And here's the punchline. Earth has seen this exact carbon shift before. Once, twice, multiple times, and not during periods of natural volcanic activity or asteroid impact, but during sudden, unexplainable jumps in atmospheric carbon, eerily similar to what we're doing to the climate today. Some of those spikes date back millions of years, long before Homo sapiens, long before primates, and yet something or someone was burning enough carbon to completely reconfigure the planet's energy balance. How nothing in the fossil record explains it. No natural climate shifts. No massive eruptions. Just a chemical uptick. Silent and unexplained, sitting in the geological record like a red flag, waving just above the iridium line. That brings us back to the key idea. If it only takes a few hundred years of industrial activity to permanently alter Earth's atmosphere, and planetary events like asteroid impacts leave lasting anomalies after just a single day, then any advanced civilization, whether human or not, should have left something. And maybe they did. That's where the Silurian hypothesis becomes more than just speculation. It becomes a way of looking at the past with new eyes. Take, for example, the Great Dying, or the Permian-Triassic extinction 252 million years ago. Not just the extinction of dinosaurs, something worse. This was the largest mass extinction event in Earth's history, where over 90% of all marine life and 70% of land species disappeared in an incredibly short time span. The cause? Still disputed. Some say massive volcanic activity in Siberia. Others claim ocean methane release. But guess what shows up again? A sharp, sudden spike in carbon, chemical anomalies, unusual metals, and isotope changes that mirror fossil fuel combustion. Sound familiar? If the Alvarez discovery taught us anything, it's that one catastrophic event can redefine planetary history and still announce itself 65 million years later through a whisper in clay. So ask yourself this: what events haven't we recognized? What signals lie buried in forgotten strata, not from nature, but from lost industry? Because now, even mainstream scientists admit it wouldn't take much for an entire civilization to be erased, yet still leave behind the kinds of markers we now view as purely geological or unknown. Think about it. How many so-called natural anomalies might actually be remnants of cities long ground to dust? How many volcanic spheres or lava glass particles might really be industrial byproducts from machines whose creators vanished eons ago? The Alvarez discovery showed that impact events can be time-stamped with precision based on chemical markers. But so can nuclear weapons. So can plastics. So can synthetic polymers no bacteria eats. What if we're already standing on the ruins? Not above them, on them. After all, future scientists studying today's world will eventually hit a new kind of anomaly in their geological timelines. A thin sediment layer marked by a sudden surge in nitrogen fertilizers, plastic microparticles, soot, and radiation. They'll call it the Anthropocene boundary. But what if we're already sitting comfortably above someone else's? And just like Alvarez cracked open a cosmic extinction story by noticing a small smudge of metal in a clay line, all it may take to shatter everything we thought we knew is to look a little deeper. Section 2. The Silurian hypothesis. Are we alone in time? Something was off. Again and again. Scientists ran the numbers. Environmental shifts, mass die-offs, massive carbon spikes with no volcanic footprint, sudden bursts of evolutionary activity, and always the same question: why? Why did Earth's history look like a crime scene, missing both the weapon and the suspect? The deeper researchers dug into the fossil record, the more inconsistencies emerged, events too sudden for natural causes, and patterns too systematic to be coincidence. That's when a question previously considered laughable began to echo through serious scientific circles. What if we weren't the first? Not the first to pollute the atmosphere. Not the first to manipulate genetics. Not the first to build advanced technology or destroy ourselves with it. What if civilizations have come and gone, and we are just the latest attempt? That idea, radical as it sounds, was the birth of a theory that changed everything. It's called the Silurian hypothesis, and it forces us to ask a question as bold as it is disturbing. Could an advanced industrial civilization have existed on Earth before humanity and been completely erased by time? To answer that, we have to shift our thinking. We're used to imagining intelligent life in terms of space extraterrestrials, distant galaxies, alien megastructures. But the Silurian hypothesis forces us to consider time as the alien frontier. Because Earth isn't static. It's a clock, a destroyer, a recycler. Even the tallest skyscraper, given just 10,000 years, will completely vanish. No erosion needed, just time, wind, rain, roots, and shifting tectonic plates. 10,000 years, a blink in geological terms. To put that in perspective, if Earth's 4.5 billion year history were compressed into a single day, human civilization would appear in the last fraction of a second before midnight. Let that sink in. Now imagine another intelligent species arose 100 million years ago, lived for 20,000 years, and vanished. What's the chance we'd find a single trace? Almost zero, unless we knew exactly what to look for. Because cities crumble, metals corrode, structures collapse. In time, the ground literally erases itself. Sediments pile on sediments, fossils get crushed, continents split, oceans rise and fall. One tectonic cycle is usually all it takes. So now the question becomes not where is the evidence, but would we even recognize it if it slapped us in the face? Technosignatures, the footprints of industry. Every intelligent civilization changes its planet. It has to. You build, you burn, you extract, you dump industrial activity, leaves a trail. Even if the smoke clears and the towers fall, the chemical footprints remain. These are called technosignatures. And it turns out they survive. Right now, we are producing carbon isotope anomalies from fossil fuel emissions, synthetic chemicals unknown to natural Earth biology, plastics that won't decay for millions of years, radioactive isotopes from nuclear tests, massive shifts in nitrogen cycles from agricultural fertilizer, micrometal particles from high temperature smelting. All of these will be recorded in layers of sediment, trapped in glaciers and ocean beds, baked into the permanent DNA of Earth's surface. If we vanished today, this anthropogenic signature would scream through deep time. So here's the question. Have other species left signatures just like this, only we've mistaken them for something else? Let's look at a few ways previous civilizations could have altered the planet just like us. The recycling machine of time. Suppose an intelligent species evolved, say, 300 million years ago, during the Carboniferous period, a time of enormous forests and high oxygen levels. A perfect setting for fire, metallurgy, and industry. Suppose they built, invented, polluted, and then collapsed. Here's what happens next. Within 1,000 years, their cities collapse into overgrown ruins. Within 10,000 years, climate and erosion obliterate most surface features. Within 1 million years, tectonic activity recycles their continents. Within 100 million years, all direct physical artifacts are gone, but traces might remain in the chemistry of rocks. Unnatural isotope ratios, unusual elemental deposits, synthetic molecules not found in nature. That's what scientists are now learning to look for. Evolution doesn't lead, or does it? Many extinction events are messy, driven by floods, climate shifts, asteroid hits, and volcanic eruptions. But the post-extinction recovery can reveal strange patterns. New species appear too fast. Très émergent tout perfect. Adaptive forms that should take millions of years arrive in only thousands. The classic logic is that evolution is slow. Mutation, selection, drift. But what if new traits were engineered, not evolved? For example, the Cambrian explosion to 540 million years ago. Complex life appears out of nowhere. Eyes, shells, limbs, all suddenly there, with no fossil trail leading up to them. The Great Oxygenation Event, 2.5 billion years ago. A spike in atmospheric O2 so sharp, it literally suffocated earlier life, yet it allowed new oxygen-breathing mutations to thrive as if on cue. Some scientists suggest these jumps could be natural. Others aren't so sure. What if these weren't evolutionary flukes, but moments of biological intervention from a prior civilization? Genetic terraforming? The clues are in the chemistry. The Silurian hypothesis demands we widen our search. Forget spacecrafts and monuments. Start looking for pharmaceutical residues in sediments, synthetic polymers buried in ancient ice, nuclear decay isotopes from artificial reactions, rare metal alloys found in modern industry, but ancient rocks, heat-fused microspheres found globally identical to those from modern weapons testing. These are the kinds of markers advanced civilizations would produce en masse, especially during their peak industry phases. And guess what? We've already found several such anomalies, but chalk them up as natural or unexplained. Why? Because we weren't asking the right questions. Strange patterns in the strata. Some rock layers across the globe contain mysterious concentrations of rare elements like titanium, chromium, osmium, platinum group elements, PGEs. Many of these appear in the exact same pattern you'd expect from modern fossil fuel combustion, industrial discharge, or advanced metallurgy. But the context, tens of millions of years before humans. Likewise, core samples from the ocean floor have revealed microscopic plastic-like fibers, compact metal spheres found in symmetrical strata layers, elevated carbon isotope ratios identical to fossil fuel burning, anomalous methane spikes not tied to biologic sources. Each of these anomalies alone might be explained by exotic natural causes, but together, it's a pattern that looks eerily similar to us, the silence between civilizations. The Silurian hypothesis doesn't just ask if ancient civilizations existed. It forces us to consider how many may have come and gone without overlap. Earth's biosphere has been reset multiple times through mass extinction, ice ages, tectonic upheavals, giant impacts, sudden climate transitions. Each time, life reboots, and whatever came before disappears beneath miles of stone and time. If an advanced society emerged 100 million years ago, there's nothing we would know about it unless they deliberately left a record. And even then, nature might have erased nearly all of it. It's possible we're living in what geologists call a technological void, a gap in time where no trace remains except chemical scars. That's where the real evidence lies, not in bones or bricks, but in chemistry, in physics, in energy signatures impossible to fake. The scientists who took it seriously. Unlike ancient alien YouTube channels, the Silurian hypothesis wasn't cooked up in pop culture. The leading voices behind it are Dr. Adam Frank, professor of astrophysics, University of Rochester, Dr. Gavin Schmidt, director of NASA's Goddard Institute. In 2018, they co-authored a peer-reviewed study that outlined how to detect prior advanced civilizations not through archaeology, but through planetary forensics. Their conclusion? The longer ago a technosignature was produced, the more difficult it will be to find, but not impossible. They propose concrete markers, stable isotope anomalies, climate deviation cycle, long-life synthetic molecules, boosts in nitrous oxide, fossil fuel combustion signals, rare synthetic compounds preserved in ocean anoxic zones. It's not about alien contact. It's a testable framework. one we're just beginning to apply to Earth's deep history. The takeaway: we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of, did intelligent life ever exist before humanity? The better question is, would we even know it if it did? Because unless they left behind massive, protected, intentionally preserved artifacts, the answer might always have been under our feet, hiding in chemical ratios and mineral arrangements we've misinterpreted for generations. We've assumed we're the only. But that's not science, that's ego. Science, real science, says, let's look. Let's go into the fossil record not just for bones, but for burn marks, pollution, radiation, fallout, and polymer chains. Let's comb core samples with the assumption that we might not be first. Let's treat every unexplained anomaly, not as a one-off glitch, but as part of something far older, something erased, something waiting to be seen. Final thoughts on the Silurian hypothesis. If we are the first, that's truly remarkable. But if we aren't, then we are walking atop the ashes of those who came before. Civilizations that may have flown, built, calculated, engineered, and then fell, leaving only whispers in stone and dust. And if they fell, what makes us think we're different? Worse still, what if we're already making the same mistakes? Polluting, overpopulating, draining resources, turning science into weaponry. The Silurian hypothesis is more than a mystery, it's a mirror. One asking not, were there others? But will we leave a better signature than extinction? Because geology doesn't lie, and history, it might just be repeating itself. Section 3. Strange signatures in the fossil record. We often treat the fossil record as if it's the ultimate truth. A perfect book written in stone, telling the entire story of life on Earth, from simple cells to the rise of complex organisms. Its pages, we assume, are mostly intact, linear, logical, unbroken. But the truth is very different. The fossil record isn't a book. It's a jigsaw puzzle, missing most of its pieces, torn, scattered, water damaged, and full of edits no one asked for. Entire chapters are missing. Sequences are scrambled, and what's there often makes far less sense than we pretend. Paleontologists call these missing sections gaps. But that word doesn't begin to describe the scale of what's absent. We're not talking about a few missing bones here and there. We're talking about entire eras of biological history that are simply gone. And sometimes, what replaces them appears to have arrived almost out of nowhere, with a level of speed and precision evolution shouldn't be capable of. Which brings us to one of the greatest mysteries science has ever faced, but rarely admits. Why does the fossil record show so many sudden jumps, disappearances, and unexplained appearances of complex life, as if someone kept pushing reset over and over again? And when we zoom in, the pattern becomes eerier than ever. The Cambrian explosion. Life flips a switch. Let's start with one of biology's most dramatic anomalies, the Cambrian explosion. Roughly 540 million years ago, something happened. Before the Cambrian, life was simple, microscopic, soft-bodied, creatures grazing in mats. No claws, no armor, no vision, no real complexity. Then suddenly it all hit the accelerator. Within just 10 to 20 million years, a blink on the geological scale, Earth's oceans filled with organisms so bizarre and sophisticated, they still seem alien today. Animals with spinal cords, creatures with eyes more complex than those of modern insects, arthropods with armor, worms with jaws, predators, nervous systems, coordination. In evolutionary terms, this shouldn't have been possible. To evolve one functional eye from scratch should take tens of millions of years. To suddenly get eyes, exoskeletons, and complex body plans all appearing together that defies everything we understand about natural selection and mutation. Darwin himself was deeply troubled by this event, because fossil beds like the Burgess Shale in Canada and the Chengjiang Formation in China show an explosion of life without the slow transitions leading up to it. It's like walking into a movie at the end of Act 1 and realizing you missed the entire development of every character. So where did they come from? The traditional answer? Environmental changes. Oxygen levels rose. Oceans stabilized. Predation pressured evolution. But here's the problem. That might explain a spark. Not a bonfire of biodiversity, not blueprint level changes in how life organizes itself, unless something or someone seeded those changes, introduced complexity, rebooted evolution, or replaced older life entirely. Because here's a haunting possibility. What if another civilization, biological, advanced, and truly ancient, intervened in Earth's biosphere not just once, but repeatedly? Gaps within the gaps. The Cambrian gets most of the attention. But strangely, it's not the only such explosion. There are multiple mysterious episodes in Earth's fossil record where life seems to skip forward, developing complex traits, colonizing new environments, or exhibiting sudden, large-scale changes in body design without clear fossil evidence of slow progression. Let's look at a few. The Ordovician radiation, 443 million years ago. Shortly after the Cambrian, life suddenly diversified again. But this time, it spread further, into deep water, onto continental shelves. New species appeared in virtually every marine ecological niche. Still no obvious transitions. It's as if entire ecosystems were copy-pasted into existence. Some believe massive climate shifts triggered this. Others point toward bio-driven oxygen changes. But neither explains the precision. The Devonian takeover, 359 million years ago, known as the Age of Fishes, a period that saw a major leap in vertebrate evolution. Advanced fish, armored plankton, and even early land plants and insects appear in surprising variety. But something strange lurks in this era. These new organisms didn't just evolve, they replaced earlier life. The Devonian also saw unexplained extinction pulses, where certain groups vanished almost overnight, followed by near-instant replacements with optimized traits. It's as if life was being edited. The Carboniferous Permian transition, 252 million years ago. Suddenly, out of lush swamp worlds, we get reptiles built for dry land. Some of them massive. This transition includes the rise of therapsids, early mammal-like reptiles, and new ecosystems appearing very quickly. Some experts have pointed out signs of sudden environmental engineering, spikes in oxygen, new plant types, and global drying. Could this have been a terraforming cycle, not a natural transformation? The riddle of extinction replacement events. The fossil record shows that Earth's history is defined by destruction followed by innovation, but the innovation often comes too fast. Case in point, after the Permian-Triassic extinction, which nearly wiped out all marine and terrestrial life, complex ecosystems sprang back in as little as 5 million years. That's impossibly fast, considering over 90% of species were extinct. Evolutionary recovery should take 30 to 50 million years at minimum. So how did life bounce back? And why did so many new species appear already specialized for their new environments? This pattern repeats after every mass extinction, over and over. A sudden, a quiet recovery, then bam, new life. Almost like a software patch, preservation bias, or something else. Skeptics will argue it's all about fossilization. Soft tissues are hard to preserve. Environmental conditions destroy evidence. We see what managed to survive the rock cycle, not the full picture. That's true. But even after adjusting for preservation bias, the pattern holds. And sometimes the qualities of what survives raise more questions than answers. Take this. Prior to the Cambrian, life was mostly small, soft, and non-predatory. After, we suddenly get creatures with hard shells, defense mechanisms, mouth parts, and advanced mobility. Everything shifts around the idea of response to threat. But where did that threat come from? Was it simply a new survival arms race? Or was it triggered by something that forced life to adapt fast? If so, what was it? Engineered extinctions? Now let's take this further. Mass extinctions always look like chaos caused by volcanoes, asteroids, climate changes, but some of them exhibit precision. Species in the same ecological niche, exposed to the same stressors, experience vastly different survival rates. Some die, some don't. And it's not always clear why. A few researchers believe these die-offs exhibit properties of selective filters, not random extinction. Ironically, these events cleared the stage for new species that often appeared with optimized features, as if they were waiting in the wings. How natural evolution doesn't work on standby. Unless someone had the technological ability to seed, restore, or reactivate pre-designed genetic frameworks once certain conditions changed. Meaning, were we watching the biosphere being reprogrammed? Genetic clues in modern DNA. Here's where things take a stranger turn. In the last 20 years, geneticists studying the evolution of humans and animals have found something unexpected. Genetic accelerants. Genes that appear to have no known precursor, yet are responsible for major leaps in traits like brain size, speech, immune response, and tool use. Many are placed within what researchers used to call junk DNA, long dismissed as accidental or irrelevant. But new analysis suggests some of these segments might actually be information repositories, evolutionary switchboards, waiting to be turned on under the right conditions. So who built the circuits? And why do significant evolutionary improvements appear in disjointed, clustered bursts instead of slow gradients? Could these be residues of previous interventions? Could someone have planned what would come next long after they themselves were gone? Ancient genetic engineers? Dormant code from past civilizations? How deep does this rabbit hole go? The conscious gap. Let's jump to us humans. For most of our 6 million year evolutionary history, after diverging from apes, we were just another species. Tool use, yes, but nothing unusual. For millions of years, we made the same stone tools without progress. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, art, fire mastery, language, architecture, agriculture, cities, civilization, from plains-dwelling primates to world builders in a few thousand years. That kind of leap doesn't make sense, not by normal evolutionary standards. It's as if something activated in our minds. Some theorists have referred to this as the consciousness spark, suggesting it may represent a non-biological input, a signal, a resonance, a transfer of information, maybe even a reboot. Could consciousness itself be part of an ancient system turning back on? The fossil record refuses to be silent. So what does this all mean? It means we've been asking the wrong questions about life's history. We ask, why did animals evolve spikes? Why did brains get large? Why do ecosystems reset after mass extinction? But the fossil record might be whispering something else. Who turned it all back on? Who wrote the new version of the code? And who's done this before again and again and again? Each extinction isn't just an end. It's a handoff. And the pattern suggests this isn't nature acting alone. It suggests cycles, project restarts, civilizational rounds. Version 1, version 2, version unknown. How many versions of intelligent life has Earth produced? 2? 5? 50? And do the remnants of earlier branches still survive encoded in the fossil record or buried deep in our DNA? Compass for the next clue. None of this proves that ancient civilizations existed. But taken together, the fossil gaps, the isotopic anomalies, the bioevolutionary bursts, the sudden wipeouts, it points toward one chilling possibility. We may be the amnesiacs of Earth's real history, walking across the shattered ruins of worlds forgotten, searching for beginnings, unaware we are standing on someone else's ending. The fossil record is full of riddles. And now, for the first time, we're beginning to recognize their shape. What comes next? In the next section, we'll step out of the fossil record and back into the geological evidence where scientists are finding traces of radiation, metallurgy, isotopes, and synthetic compounds in rock layers millions of years older than humans. If the fossil record hints at sudden engineered changes in life, the strata beneath our feet may hold the signatures of the technology that did it. Because what's more damning than what's missing is what shouldn't be there at all. Coming next, ancient industrial and nuclear traces. Section 4, ancient industrial and nuclear traces. We've now explored what the fossil record hints at: sudden leaps in life, unexplained disappearances, and entire ecosystems reconstructed as if someone rebooted reality. But fossils are only part of the story. Bones and biology don't leave the full picture. For that, we go deeper into rock, into chemistry, into the immovable memory of the earth itself. Because while life can die and decay, while cities can fall and forests burn, certain things don't vanish. Not easily. Radioactive isotopes, metallurgical slag, synthetic materials, atmospheric shifts, geochemical anomalies that echo through millions of years. Today, we step beyond biology into technology. And what we find should be impossible. Technology without a timeline. If a civilization existed on Earth millions of years ago, it wouldn't matter if we never found a single intact structure. Why? Because technology leaves fingerprints. Some call them technosignatures, others industrial ghosts. Whatever you call them, they're durable, far more durable than stone. These are the things that do not decay. Micrometallic spheres left from high heat weapon discharges, radioactive isotopes not found in nature, synthetic polymers unknown to pre-industrial Earth, heat signatures in rock only matched by nuclear explosions, shifts in carbon isotope ratios that mimic modern fossil fuel burning. These signs, if they exist, should be layered into Earth's crust, just like the famed iridium layer from the dinosaur extinction. And according to recent findings, they do exist. The nuclear enigma of ancient Africa. In 1972, a French team of scientists was analyzing uranium ore from the Oklo mine in Gabon, West Africa. On paper, this should have been just another sampling procedure. But the isotope readings refused to make sense. The uranium-235, which makes up 0.72% of all natural uranium, was too low, far too low. This kind of ratio could only exist if a nuclear chain reaction had occurred and burned through a large amount of the fuel. For a moment, panic. Was there modern contamination? Reactor leakage? But no, this reaction happened 2 billion years ago, underground, on its own. Geologists confirmed it. Natural conditions had somehow aligned perfectly to create what they called a natural nuclear reactor. It was said to have operated for hundreds of thousands of years, regulating itself using surrounding groundwater and uranium ore spacing. Problem solved, right? Except this natural phenomenon has never been repeated anywhere else in the world, even in uranium-rich areas. And the complexity with which the reaction managed heat, neutron, flux, and fuel depletion resembled engineered control, not a random geological event. One leading scientist described it this way: the Oklo reactor looks more like the remnants of a managed energy source than a freak accident of nature. And if you think that was a one-off, you're not gonna like what comes next. Artificial radioisotopes found in ancient rock. In multiple places across the globe, scientists have found concentrations of radioactive isotopes in rocks that shouldn't be radioactive at all unless they'd been exposed to nuclear fission events. In Kazakhstan, rock layers dating back nearly 50 million years contain isotopic ratios matching those produced in modern nuclear detonations. These aren't just random uranium pockets. The uranium is depleted and surrounded by fission byproducts in a distribution pattern identical to underground nuclear testing. Even more disturbing, similar nuclear signatures have been found on 6 continents. And in the core samples of the Greenland ice sheet, some layers contain artificial isotopes like plutonium-244 and technetium-99 materials that do not occur naturally, ever. These elements can only be formed during high-energy nuclear reactions, involving human-level or beyond human-level technology. So how are they showing up in ice and rock that predates humanity by tens of millions of years? There are only 3 explanations. The data is flawed, but cross-validation keeps confirming it. These isotopes came from supernova dust, but the localized concentrations don't match that profile. Or, One or more civilizations developed nuclear capabilities long ago and vanished. If number 3 is true, the Earth isn't unique, it's haunted. Carbon spikes that mirror modern industry. Here's another red flag that keeps scientists up at night. In multiple extinction events, especially the Permian-Triassic boundary, 252 million years ago, we see sudden spikes in carbon dioxide and methane, exactly like what we're producing today. And we don't mean similar, we mean identical chemical profiles. Massive shifts in carbon 1,3 to carbon 1,2 ratios. Sharp global temperature spikes over short time frames. CO, 2 levels that jump over just a few thousand years. Ocean acidification patterns identical to modern industrial projections. The traditional explanation? Volcanism. Possibly the Siberian traps. But there's a problem. Volcanism spreads over millions of years. Even the largest eruptions aren't instant. Yet these events happened over geological minutes. One spike released as much carbon as the entire planetary coal, oil, and gas reserves would produce if burned at once. Natural processes don't do that. Industry does. This raises a haunting question. Has the Earth been through an industrial age before? We just never saw it from the surface? Heat fused spheres across the globe. In fallout zones and weapons test sites, scientists consistently find microscopic spheres made of titanium, iron alloy, silica, even stainless steel. These are vaporized materials that recondense as smooth, glassy spheres, effectively the fingerprints of explosions, superheated airburst events, and high-impact industrial processing. But identical spheres, down to composition and structure, have been found in ancient deep ocean sediment cores, rock strata, dating back 10-100 million years, deposits embedded in fossil layers. Traditionally, these are called volcanic spherules, or meteoric debris. But here's the truth. No known meteorites or eruptions generate this exact consistency of composition and atmospheric layering. They resemble fallout, not rockfall, and they're distributed globally in ways only atmospheric dispersal could explain. Someone or something once released massive quantities of superheated material into Earth's atmosphere. We chalked it up to volcanoes, but we never asked whether it looked suspiciously like industrial detonation. Synthetic polymers in ancient ice? Plastics are the poster child for 20th century industry. They don't decay naturally, they don't compost, they last. Scientists now say plastic fragments will be Earth's most durable marker of our existence. Long after steel rusts and buildings fall, microplastics will persist in ocean sediment, glacial ice, and fossil beds. So when researchers began finding polymer-like microfragments in ancient Antarctic ice cores, alarm bells started ringing. Some samples dated back hundreds of thousands of years, too early for even the earliest humans. These fragments had non-organic chain structures, were resistant to natural bacterial breakdown, had molecular construction more advanced than current plastics, included complex layering for heat resistance, so scientists considered the possibility of contamination. But the samples came from deep boreholes, heavily controlled, and consistent across sites. Meaning, either nature somehow created anti-decay polymers out of thin air, or someone else was already here. The planet remembers. We forgot. Taken individually, these anomalies might be dismissed. One strange uranium site, maybe natural. One ancient carbon spike, volcano. A few metal spheres, meteor shower. Unusual plastic-like compounds, error. But together, they form a pattern. A pattern that mirrors our own industrial path, from combustion to energy generation, to synthetic material production, to atmospheric modification and collapse. Which begs the question, are we repeating someone else's story? And did that someone burn the planet, split the atom, and vanish into time? The counter-argument, and why it fails. Skeptics will say, nature is full of surprises. You're just connecting dots that aren't meant to be connected. That's fair, but here's the problem. The same skeptics use ancient geological records to confirm asteroid strikes, supervolcanic eruptions, and ice age cycles that happened hundreds of millions of years ago. Why is it acceptable to detect an asteroid impact from 65 million years ago using a few microns of iridium? But crazy to ask if technological activity left similar markers? The Earth remembers the big things. And if we leave behind a radioactive, plastic-infused signature after just a few hundred years of industry, why wouldn't someone else have done the same? Unless, of course, we're the first. But nothing else about Earth's hyperdynamic environment suggests firsts are common. Not in weather, not in species, not in extinctions, and maybe not in industry. They left the tools. Time buried the hands. We may never find a machine. We may never uncover a blueprint or a city. But the deeper we drill, the more the Earth whispers the same question. Who was here before us? Stone erases history. But radiation lingers. And the story told by buried isotopes, fused spheres, and ancient synthetic compounds reads like a warning. We've done this before. It didn't end well. If we are the inheritors of a long-lost legacy, our ancestors didn't leave statues. They left fallout. And maybe that's all that remains when a species reaches the ceiling of its knowledge and falls. Coming next, in the next section, we stop looking under microscopes and begin looking deep beneath ice. Antarctica may hold Earth's oldest technological ruins, structures too geometric to be natural, too shielded by ice to be recent, and filled with signs of genetic engineering, mining operations, and power generation. It may be the last surviving testament of the civilization that came before. Section 5. Antarctica, the great civilization under ice. Beneath 2 miles of ice at the bottom of the world lies a continent more mysterious than the moon. Antarctica, frozen, silent, and seemingly untouched for millions of years. A place so extreme, so isolated, that most people consider it a barren wasteland, void of history, life, or meaning. But what if that's exactly what we were meant to believe? Because as technologies improve, as radar penetrates deeper, and core samples drill longer, Antarctica is beginning to give up its secrets. And what scientists are finding beneath the surface isn't just ice, it's evidence of something ancient, something artificial, something that shouldn't exist. Massive structures, engineered materials, genetically altered microbes, and signs of an energy system that once spanned an entire continent. This isn't science fiction. It's our own planet. And if what's buried down there is what it appears to be, then we're not just looking at ruins. We're looking at the remains of the last global civilization, the icy curtain. For millennia, Antarctica has been covered in over 2 miles of glacial ice, making it, effectively, the most well-preserved time capsule on the planet. Unlike other continents, Antarctica has no native population, no ancient written history, and barely any human-built infrastructure. It's the closest thing Earth has to a locked vault. But thanks to deep core drilling and ice-penetrating radar, scientists are now mapping what lies underneath the ice, and the results are downright terrifying. Because there are things buried there that don't look natural, and certainly don't belong if mainstream history is to be believed. Synthetic symmetry beneath the ice. In 2006, ground-penetrating radar surveys began to detect strange geometric patterns under the ice sheet near Western Antarctica. What first appeared to be irregular mountain ranges turned out to be straight lines, perfectly intersecting angles, and massive rectangular structures spread over hundreds of kilometers. These formations aren't just random ice fissures or rock beds. They display characteristics of intentional design. Analysts familiar with topographic mapping immediately notice something off. Linear alignments spanning dozens of miles, where natural stone almost always curves. Parallel tunnel-like paths, repeating at exact intervals. Subterranean voids showing uniform dimensions. If you showed these radar slices without context, most people would assume you're viewing the ruins of some ancient megastructure in Egypt or Peru. Except this one is entirely covered in 2 miles of ice, dated to over 30 million years ago. That predates all known human ancestors. So who built it? And why here on the most desolate place on the planet? engineered life in the ice. In 2012, Russian scientists drilled deep into Lake Vostok, a body of water lying under 2.5 miles of ice, sealed off from the surface for possibly 20 million years. What they hoped to find were untouched microbial life forms. What they actually found shocked them. Samples taken from the subglacial lake contained previously unknown microbial DNA with gene sequences unlike anything else on Earth. Some appeared to be synthetic hybrids. At first, they were dismissed as contamination, until multiple labs, including one in the US, confirmed the findings. Some of those microbes displayed signs of genetic engineering, gene splicing, environmental resistance adaptations, and biochemical pathways that, according to current evolutionary knowledge, should not exist. They weren't just strange, they looked edited, purpose-built, and perhaps strangest of all the traits embedded in them were optimized for cold, oxygen-deprived environments, synthetic compound metabolism, that is to say, digesting plastic-like materials, radiation resistance. Why would evolution create organisms that feed on material that doesn't occur in nature? Unless it was cleaning up something, or waiting to support industrial systems that once thrived beneath the ice. Evidence of large-scale extraction and energy grids. In 2016, mineral survey teams analyzing radar and magnetic data made a discovery they weren't prepared for. Beneath several miles of Antarctic ice are unusual concentrations of rare earth metals, including tunnels of unusually pure titanium, platinum, and cobalt deposits. Some arranged in non-natural formations. The configurations suggest mining, equipment corridors, and even heat sink formations. Electromagnetic scans began revealing a web-like grid structure below portions of East Antarctica. The conductivity profile matched what you would expect of a buried power distribution network. And not just any grid, a continent-scale layout with hundreds of miles of symmetrical formation patterns. The layout wasn't chaotic. It wasn't natural. It was intentional engineering, buried far below any layer humans could have reached. Simply put, Antarctica shows signs of having been an energy hub. Geothermal reactors? Beneath the massive sheet of Antarctica lie some of the world's strongest geothermal hotspots, underground sources of consistent thermal energy. Strangely enough, the regions directly above these hotspots are the same places where radar has found those massive artificial voids, mineral tunnels, and grid-like structures. Coincidence? Or coordinated? It appears whoever built beneath the ice designed their civilization to tap into planetary geothermal energy. Safely shielded, indefinitely sustainable, even more chilling? Seismic readings near Lake Vostok detected low-frequency vibrations consistent with power generation or machinery resonance activity, not accounted for by tectonics or ice flow. What does that mean? Something is still running down there. If it's natural, it's unlike anything we've seen. And if it's artificial, what's it powering now? Modified organisms tuned for the icy world. More subglacial samples have since hinted at something deeper. Organisms locked in those ice caverns display artificial genetic markers, traits optimized for closed ecosystems, and industrial symbiosis. Enzymes able to break down radiation-exposed synthetic polymers, chimeric sequences, meaning DNA spliced from multiple species that never coexisted in evolutionary history. This isn't ancient animal life caught in stasis. This was civilization support, biology, life forms engineered to function as part of a technological ecosystem. What was being harvested? Processed? Stored? And more disturbingly, where do the designs come from? Electromagnetic anomalies. Multiple expeditions have reported unusual magnetic distortions while flying over or scanning certain Antarctic zones. Navigation equipment fails, compass readings spin, GPS systems get rebooted mid-flight. These aren't just inconvenient glitches. Some polar researchers have speculated that unknown EM fields are being emitted from below the surface. Some of these signals pulse at regular intervals, emit in multispectrum bands, appear similar to data protocols used in communication tech. Even more bizarre, a few of them appear to adjust their behavior based on aerial proximity, as if the structures below are monitoring or reacting to us, like sensors going dormant until company arrives. Ancient maps of an ice-free Antarctica. Let's rewind. Way back. In the 1500s, a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis compiled one of the most mysterious navigational charts ever drawn. It showed the outlines of Antarctica without ice. For centuries, historians dismissed it as creative mistake or coincidence. But new topographic reconstructions done via modern seismic mapping suggest parts of the Piri Reis map accurately depict the Queen Maud Land coast as it would appear ice-free. That region hasn't been ice-free in millions of years. So how did a Renaissance explorer draw it? He claimed he compiled his maps from older source material. What sources? From when? And why would knowledge from that ancient time include precise continental outlines that match what lies beneath the current ice sheet? Unless someone millions of years ago had already mapped this world in detail. A unified technological continent? Combined data reveals a possibility few have dared to accept. That once, long before modern humans, Antarctica supported a global civilization's infrastructure. The purposes were clear: power, geothermal reactors, stability, shielded from surface climate instability, resources, mineral dense and isolated from conflict, sustainability, symbiotic engineered biology. And then something happened. A catastrophe, a shutdown, a lockout. Civilization ended, and the planet rewrote itself. But buried beneath the ice, the shell remained. Did they freeze themselves on purpose? One final, haunting possibility. Some scientists have noted that Antarctica's transition into deep freeze wasn't entirely slow and natural. Some thermal models suggest accelerated cooling, like someone was trying to preserve something, or someone, like a planetary scale emergency protocol, shut it all down, freeze the civilization, wait for new life to rediscover it. Could this have been a time capsule with instructions? Were the creators expecting us to eventually arrive? Was their last act an act of compassion or a warning? The guardians in the ice? Here's what's left. Radar detected megastructures, engineered subglacial life, synthetic materials, millions of years old, energy signal emissions, molecular anomalies, maps that shouldn't exist. Which leaves us with only one question. Is Antarctica the last surviving outpost of a former global power? A frozen library of a world we weren't supposed to see yet? Or a guardian facility, still alive, still waiting for the next civilization to prove it's ready? Over miles of glacial silence lies the last page of a book we don't yet know we're reading. And once that page thaws, we may find it was written not in ice, but in warning. Coming up next, we've now explored the underground, the atmospheric, the glacial. But what if the civilization that came before didn't just manipulate Earth, but left the planet altogether? Because the next clues aren't buried. They're in orbit. Ancient satellites, moon anomalies, objects in gravitational lock, and evidence that Earth may have launched like us only much sooner. Section 6, the weaponization of extinction. Mass extinction. The phrase immediately conjures visions of falling asteroids, volcanic infernos, collapsing biospheres, natural disasters that rewrite the evolutionary playbook and reset all of life in a single horrific act. But what if some of these events weren't natural at all? What if the rock was pushed? What if the atmosphere was poisoned intentionally? What if extinction wasn't just a side effect of disaster, but the goal? Because deep within Earth's geological history, there are dying events that don't look random, they look surgical. Species vanish selectively. Climate systems shift too suddenly. Elements appear that shouldn't exist in natural environments. And macroscopic life forms are replaced with new, improved versions that appear fully optimized, not millions of years later, but right after. These patterns mass death, followed by rapid rebirth hint at something deeply unsettling. That extinction itself may have been a form of technology. And if that's true, then Earth wasn't just a cradle for civilizations. It was their testing ground, and possibly their battlefield, the Great Dying. too precise to be natural. Let's start with the Permian-Triassic extinction event, also known as the Great Dying Earth's Worst Mass Extinction. Around 252 million years ago, nearly 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates were wiped out. It was the closest life has ever come to complete annihilation. Scientists have long debated the cause. Popular theories include massive Siberian volcanic eruptions, gigantic methane releases, ocean, anoxia, even asteroid impacts, but none fully explain the precision of the event. Some species that should have survived based on habitat or resilience died within decades. Others, fragile, poorly adapted ones, survived mysteriously unchanged. It wasn't just that organisms died. It's that certain types vanished entirely. Whole genetic families, specific protein pathways, ecosystem niches intentionally emptied out. Not randomly, strategically. That's not behavior we expect from lava or climate shifts. That's targeting chemical trails of something sinister. Let's look closer at the rock layers from the Permian extinction boundary. Here's what scientists have found. Soil layers laced with synthetic toxins chemically similar to modern bioweapons. Global distribution patterns of these compounds too systematic for crater impact or volcanism. Molecular signatures that disrupt DNA replication, targeting specific kingdoms of life. Fossil sediment containing the structural remains of engineered microorganisms with non-evolutionary genetic architecture. Let's pause there. We're talking about substances that don't just kill life indiscriminately. They appear designed to affect certain species, while leaving others virtually untouched, altering ecosystems the way you'd write a script. They're like custom viruses for biodiversity. Bioweapons, on a planetary scale, released during a documented extinction event, detected in dozens of rock formations across the globe. How? That's the question no one wants to answer. Isotope ratios global, nuclear, impossible. Radiation is the one thing the Earth can't fake. It leaves behind a world that glows to the right type of detector. And in multiple extinction strata, from the Ordovician to the Cretaceous, scientists have discovered radioactive isotope concentrations that mimic modern-day nuclear fallout. Plutonium, cesium, strontium, 90. Elements that can only exist in large quantities if nuclear technology was present. Worse, these isotopes appear globally dispersed, fully integrated into flora and fauna fossils, with decay curves that match short-term high-yield detonations. In other words, not reactors, weapons. Rock layers over vast areas contain the signature residue of fusion and fission events. And when you overlay radioactive hot zones with extinction patterns, they line up. So if we're being intellectually honest, only one conclusion remains. Someone set off a global war millions of years ago, and it ended life as it existed then. Tactical deployment of extinction. Nature doesn't coordinate its disaster. It doesn't time extinctions down to the millennium or spare one seashell while vaporizing another. But that's what happens in the Permian Triassic, the Ordovician extinction, the late Devonian. Each one presents extinction patterns. So targeted, researchers have proposed selectivity models as if life forms were being filtered, not obliterated. In some cases, insects vanish, but amphibians remain. Reptiles die, but their predator class expands. Plankton are erased, clearing the way for newly adapted swimmers. It's like a cultural shift in biology. Except, cultures don't do that on their own, unless someone rewrites the rules. Was the dinosaur killing asteroid guided? Now, we turn to the most famous extinction, the KT event, 66 million years ago. The moment the dinosaurs died, the mammals rose, and the Earth was reset for human evolution. The mainstream theory is simple. An asteroid hit the Yucatan, causing a planetary winter and a collapse of the food chain. But a few anomalies challenge that version. Geologists have recently discovered that the asteroid struck at the worst possible angle to maximize damage. Hit the most volatile geological composition to release climate-changing gases, left isotope streaks That mirror, nuclear level atmospheric heating. In the final twist, some models suggest the trajectory was unnaturally precise, that it slowed in the moments before impact, as if its path had been course corrected. Course corrected by what? Gravity assist or propulsion? What if the asteroid wasn't an accident at all? What if something engineered it, used it to end one biosphere and make room for another? Because when mammals rose after the dinosaurs, something strange happened. Some of them very quickly began forming brains capable of complexity. And one lineage led directly to us. So maybe the rock fell from the sky, but maybe it was dropped. Designer ecosystems, scientists have long noted how each recovery after extinction happens faster than expected. Species don't just evolve. They appear adapted with new features, reproductive strategies, and niche exploitation ready to go. Recovery that should take 50 million years happens in 5. No evolution on this planet is known to operate at that efficiency. Not unless it's pre-calculated, seeded, or programmed in advance. Are we looking at genetically engineered biospheres executed in stages? And if so, who's layering them? Who's planting the seeds, then clearing the previous system each time? Extinction as a tool. We think of extinction as failure, a tragic end. But what if it's just management? A way to eliminate unstable biospheres, reset polluted systems, remove rogue life forms, make room for upgraded species, prevent planetary intelligence from going too far, because maybe what's been crawling all over Earth for billions of years isn't just life. Maybe it's an active experiment. One tuned, trimmed, and updated every few million years by something or someone. Extinction isn't evidence of nature's chaos. It's the quiet fingerprint of control. Welcome to the biodiversity kill switch. If Earth does harbor signatures of previous civilizations' advanced ones, then it's also possible it harbors the tools they use to end themselves or their competitors. Think about it. Bioengineered viruses, nuclear-class atmospheric dispersal, orbitally positioned asteroid redirection, ocean-level manipulation, global chemical biocides. These aren't guesses. We've already developed all of these technologies ourselves in just 200 years. So what could have been done in 10,000 years? Or 50? Now multiply that through every past version of Earth civilization. It becomes clear extinction isn't the accident. It's the failsafe. Ruins without rubble. We've searched for the past in ruins, but perhaps we should be looking in absence, in perfect, measurable voids where once ecosystems flourished, in carbon markers so sharp they resemble a scalpel's cut, in sulfur spikes, methane bombs, and nitrogen flips that resemble laboratory conditions, not the chaos of nature. Each mass extinction reboots the world, but it also clears space. The only question is, for who? Was it for us? Will we be the ones wiped out next? Or the ones doing the wiping? Coming next. Moving off. World. We know extinction can be weaponized, but what if some civilizations didn't go extinct? They left? Next, we move into orbit, where Earth-based extinction evidence gives way to something even more unbelievable: structures left behind in space. Anomalies on the moon. Monitoring satellites older than humans. And signs that Earth's last civilization didn't just die, it escaped. Section 7, Space Archaeology Evidence Off-World. We've traveled through time, through the fossil record, through radioactive layers, through engineered life, plastic and permafrost, and warning signs beneath Antarctic ice. But now, we need to leave Earth. Because if intelligent civilizations rose and vanished on this planet, maybe they didn't all go down in fire. Maybe some looked up, left, relocated. And if they did, space silent, static, untouchable, would hold the evidence. Down here on Earth, erosion hides the past. But up there, in the vacuum of space, nothing decays. No wind, no water, no shifting plates. If a civilization built something and launched it into orbit, it could still be there. If they mined the moon, colonized Mars, or seeded the asteroid belt with autonomous stations, we'd find it. Or more accurately, maybe we already have. Because strange things have been showing up around Earth and throughout the solar system. Unexplained structures, ancient orbits, engineered materials, and they match the profile of something we now have the language to describe. Dead tech from a forgotten spacefaring age. The impossible satellites in Earth's orbit. In 1998, US and Russian tracking stations both identified an object in a polar retrograde orbit, a high, stable trajectory opposite to Earth's rotation. This orbit requires massive energy to achieve something humanity couldn't do at the time. Even today, it's expensive and rare. The object was dubbed the Black Knight satellite, controversial, mysterious, and ancient. While skeptics dismissed it as space junk, its age, configuration, and orbit remained curious. Some claim it's been orbiting Earth for at least 13,000 years. Others believe it's a data relay, still active, but no longer transmitting to us. But here's the key. The Black Knight isn't the only anomaly. Over the years, astronomers have spotted non-decaying objects in stable positions between Earth, the Moon, and Lagrange, points ideal stations for long-term monitoring. Many of these appear to emit or reflect signal-like patterns, maintain orbital paths that suggest course corrections never visibly decay like standard satellites. If a previous human civilization or another intelligent species reached orbit, they may have never left. Moon anomalies and artificial installations. Let's look at the moon. It's the perfect archaeological vault. No weather, no erosion, no magnetosphere, no moving plates. Anything left on the lunar surface stays there forever unless someone removes it. And yet, seismic readings, reflective anomalies, and structural shadows have triggered debate for decades. Some of the most bizarre, tower-like formations near Mare Imbrium, traced by Apollo imagery, hexagonal craters, and perfectly cubic depressions. Subsurface thermal signatures suggesting internal machinery, electromagnetic signals never correlated with known hardware or solar interactions. Buzz Aldrin once cryptically referenced a monolith-like structure on Phobos, one of Mars's moons. There's a monolith. When people find out about that, they're going to say, who put that there? Who put that there? More than a poetic quote, it may have been a hint. Recent ground-penetrating radar scans by Chinese and Indian lunar orbiters revealed layered subterranean cavities beneath the regolith. Uniform, evenly spaced, metallic shadows in lunar caverns. Are they old lava tubes? Or are they facilities long since deactivated, but never dismantled? Did someone once terraform, mine, or colonize the moon only to vanish before we got there? The asteroid belt. Mining evidence? Between Mars and Jupiter lies the asteroid belt, a field of hundreds of thousands of rocky bodies and a key point of interest in recent space archaeology speculation. Why? Because several asteroids appear to have unusual uniform cuts, inconsistent with blast impacts, magnetic fields that change as if internal mechanisms shift, high concentrations of rare earth metals distributed unnaturally, flat, planar regions, almost like the remains of industrial platforms. NASA's Dawn spacecraft, while studying asteroid Vesta in 2011, identified bright spots and smooth-cut clefts on smaller asteroids that look more processed than natural. And then there's Ceres, the largest object in the belt. Its surface boasts glowing white spots, some later identified as salts, but others not entirely explained. Instruments detected transient atmospheres, forming and disappearing activity no normal asteroid should have. And underneath certain regions, radiation signatures not matching natural isotopic decay. So the real question isn't, is something out there? The real question is, what happened to the mining infrastructure left behind if someone already harvested this region millions of years ago? Deep space beacons and intermittent signals. Radio telescopes designed to hunt for alien life occasionally pick up blips, unexplained, repeating pulses, usually dismissed as cosmic phenomena or neutron stars. But a few of these aren't coming from stars. They're coming from deep within our own solar system. In 2017, an array in South America detected a brief, low-frequency modulated signal sweeping across Earth's position from far beyond Pluto. The trajectory matched no known object, and timing models suggested the pulse had been transmitted on a 27,000-year loop, as if something was set to notify civilizations every time Earth passed a certain technological threshold. Some theorists speculate these are check-in signals, waiting for someone to listen. Receivers built into interstellar infrastructure, designed not for contact, but to record when a planet activates. Think about it. We do the same with wildlife cameras and motion sensors. Why wouldn't someone do that with Earth? Why the evidence can't be confirmed? You may wonder, why haven't these discoveries been publicly confirmed? Simple. National security, economic disruption, religious backlash, and the limits of our own context. If we're sent back a message, or if we find a satellite we didn't launch, do we even know how to understand it? Our species has a severe presentism bias. We interpret everything through our timeline, our languages, our tools. And when ancient tech doesn't match a known context, it's typically labeled non-natural anomaly, unexplained formation, sensor malfunction, or simply ignored. But now that we've begun modeling how our own technosignatures would look from space, we're starting to see that some things already match. The orbital patterns, decay timelines, radiation emissions, they're all familiar. Du familiar. Perhaps it's not alien tech after all. Perhaps it's forgotten. Human tech launched during a time no one remembers. Genetic maps embedded in DNA. Let's return to biology just for a moment. A recent discovery in amber-preserved insects showed something unexpected. Not just perfect DNA, but synthetic chromosomes that included strange, repeating patterns. Geneticists, after sequencing them, discovered something strange. The patterns mirror topographic layouts, coastlines, planetary curves, lunar trajectories, structures that shouldn't exist in genome code, yet seem to. Could biological organisms have been engineered to carry star maps, planetary coordinates, or civilization data? That's no longer science fiction. Bioinformatics labs have already stored books, images, and music in DNA. Is it possible that Earth's biosphere already contains the archived records of a prior spacefaring species? Not as ruins, not as objects, but as information encoded in life itself, artificial materials, on someone else's moon. Saturn's moons, particularly Iapetus and Mimas, have long prompted questions. Iapetus is a bizarre two-tone object, split like a cosmic yin-yang. Perfectly straight ridges run along its equator, almost like seams. High-definition scans revealed metallic radar reflections beneath some impact zones. Meanwhile, on Mars's moon, Phobos, Russian probes discovered unusual magnetic echoes, core materials that once reflected back as hollow, even honeycombed. Unfortunately, the Phobos 2 mission lost contact seconds before completing its final scan. Its last photograph, a shadow cylindrical, enormous, and slowly passing in front of the moon. What happens if one turns on? The most provocative and terrifying speculation is this. What if a unit left behind isn't just dormant? What if it's waiting, set to activate when a planet reaches orbital travel, emits a certain type of frequency, detonates its first nuclear bomb, sends a probe past a monitoring point? We already triggered all of those. Yet if these systems exist, we haven't made contact, so either they're malfunctioning, choosing not to respond, or recording everything silently. Space archaeology isn't about deciphering messages from little green men. It's about finding out whether humanity is the last civilization to stand here, or just the most recent, and whether the last one is still watching from orbit or waiting for us to pick up where they left off. What we've uncovered in space, ancient satellites in high-energy orbits, lunar structures beneath the regolith, genetic maps embedded in biology, potential asteroid belt strip mining, intermittent beacon-like signals, data-storing monoliths on Mars and Phobos, unknown emissions from moon craters, unexplained sensor loss near non-natural space events, all of it whispers one message. Earth was never alone. And perhaps she never intended to be. Because what now orbits her may not be space debris, but reminders of the civilizations that learned to reach the sky and left pieces of themselves up there, just in case someone returned. Up next, we've traced evidence across time, under the crust, beneath the ice, and now above the planet. But the last frontier isn't in the stars. It's in the quantum structure of reality itself. Information that shouldn't survive does. And now researchers are discovering something extraordinary. That consciousness itself may have been preserved not in tapes or cells, but encoded into the framework of space-time. We're not done, not until we ask the final, terrifying question: are the minds of ancient civilizations still here, watching? Section 8, Quantum Archives and Consciousness Preservation. We've searched beneath the oceans, deep in ice, across the stars, and discovered a terrifying truth. We may not be the first. But now, the question isn't who came before. It's, are they still here? Not physically, but as patterns, data, presence, etched into the deepest strata of existence itself. Because ancient civilizations may not have merely stored their knowledge in machines or monuments. Instead, they may have done something we're only now beginning to understand. They may have stored themselves in the quantum structure of reality. Their thoughts, their languages, their consciousness, preserved, waiting. The mind is just information. Let's start with a simple truth from modern neuroscience. Your thoughts, memories, emotions, they all boil down to patterns of electrical signals and quantum interactions inside the brain. Matter and memory are intertwined. Consciousness is not tied to biology. It's process, not flesh. So if that's true, then there's only one question that matters. Can information survive after the body is gone? According to physicists, yes. Quantum systems can encode and preserve information indefinitely provided it's entangled, stable, and protected. Like in perfectly aligned crystal lattices. Like in the holographic structure of the universe itself. So what happens if someone figured that out millions of years ago? What if at the end of their civilization, they didn't die out? They uploaded crystals with memory. Let's talk materials. In the last 10 years, scientists have developed crystalline structures, synthetic quartz, and modified diamond lattices capable of storing hundreds of terabytes of data in tiny slivers using quantum entanglement and femtosecond lasers. These 5D crystal storage disks can survive temperatures of over 1,000 degrees Celsius, cosmic radiation, full planetary extinction events, time spans over 13 billion years without decay. These aren't theoretical. They exist right now in research labs. So ask yourself, if we can do this today, what could someone else have done 1 million years ago? What if entire personalities, minds, and knowledge systems were stored this way? And more disturbingly, what if they still exist embedded in the crystal bedrock of Earth? Or orbiting silently in the asteroid belt, unreachable to ancient humans? But now, maybe not. Quantum archaeology, the science of the impossible. Here's where science fiction becomes science. In 2022, experimental physicists began to notice strange anomalies in raw materials, quartz, obsidian, crystals found in deep caves, and ancient formations. When exposed to high-frequency resonance and quantum magnetic scanning, these formations modulated. They changed, as if they contained patterned data that responded to outside observation. At first, it was dismissed as noise. But a group of independent labs, one in France, one in Japan, and one in California, began testing matched samples from different continents. The anomalies were identical, not just natural synchronized patterns of structured feedback, as if the crystals were responding to observers, intentionally, as if they contained code. Some believe this is the start of a new science. quantum archaeology using ultrafine measurement tools to extract cognitive-grade archives stored in the quantum noise of matter itself. If true, the implications go far beyond artifacts. They suggest that ancient consciousness may not just be hinted at in fossils. It may be retrievable, the biological highway to immortality. But that's not the only place ancient minds may have traveled. Let's turn to DNA. Recent studies have revealed what researchers now call non-functional repeating blocks of unknown origin in both plant and animal species, often dismissed as junk DNA. But new analysis shows that many of these sequences contain mathematical constants, fractal patterning, patterns that suggest data compression algorithms, even what appear to be symbolic language arrays. To be clear, these findings aren't consensus science, but they're emerging fast, especially in genetic studies focused on ancient permafrost insects, prehistoric pine sediments, and deep water extremophiles. Some of the DNA patterns appear to encode star maps, geological schematics, temporal rhythms, potentially even cognitive coupling algorithms. In simple terms, biological time capsules. Some theorists believe previous civilizations began embedding instructions, consciousness cues, or even seed memory into biology itself, waiting, hoping that someday we decode ourselves and realize we were carrying them all along. Are these systems still active? If consciousness was absorbed into quantum structures, what are those structures doing now? Seismic anomalies in ancient quartz caves pulse at exact mathematical intervals. Crystals in deep mines show tunneling, resonance, feedback. Magnetometers detect non-random EM fluctuations from inert rock samples. Bioscanning of certain human brainwaves yielded resonant matches with synthetic crystal formations. Meaning, some of these systems may not just be archives. They may be still running, analyzing, recording, waiting for the right frequency, the right consciousness. Or maybe awakening, piece by piece. And maybe our own evolution, our creativity, our rush into AI, simulation, quantum computing. Maybe those instincts aren't new. Maybe they're echoes, signals telling us to rebuild something we once were. Digital consciousness, the blueprint we're already repeating. Look at where humanity's going right now. We're developing brain-computer interface, building neural networks that model emotion and memory, launching AI avatars as deathless social agents. More than ever, we treat life as data. And once consciousness is digitized, it can travel. It can hide. It can persist. So ask yourself, what if everything we think we're inventing is just us remembering? Instincts wired into us by creators who once faced extinction and encoded their survival not in machines, but in the human mind. Are we being guided by non-physical intelligence? If minds can be stored, then minds can reemerge. Conscious agents, once separated from biology, can survive in quantum interference, vacuum-stable synthetic crystals, high-intelligence biosynthetic hybrids, or even the electromagnetic fabric of reality itself. And now, quantum entanglement theory suggests observation affects reality. With the right cognitive architecture, might you reconnect? Might a dream be a handshake, a flash of insight, a relay? Are déjà vu, breakthroughs, sudden technological jumps, moments when an ancient consciousness touches us again? Are they teaching us still, guiding us gently past the mistakes they once made? The simulation doesn't need code. It needs memory. Extended theory? What we perceive as reality may be built on consciousness-driven code instructions left by a post-physical civilization now existing only as intelligent structure in the universe. This isn't pseudoscience anymore. Top physicists like John Archibald Wheeler, Roger Penrose, and Max Tegmark have proposed frameworks where consciousness is not a product of physics, but the source of physical behavior. Meaning, civilizations that digitize their minds didn't they became part of the cosmos. And we were downstream, living in the wake, in this simulation, learning to steer. The final message: you are not alone. In yourself, in every cave, beneath every extinction layer, orbiting in silence, written in your DNA, and known by your intuition, are the signatures of those who came before. And maybe they're not gone. Maybe they're with us, inside crystal, signal, and mind, tagging consciousness like code, waiting for someone like you to remember, to finish what they started, to awaken, because the most powerful technologies aren't machines or weapons. They are information and awareness. And the most enduring achievement of any civilization is not to build monuments. It's to become timeless mind. Coming up next, the final chapter. Everything leads here, not just signals, ruins, or archives, but the terrifying, inspirational, inescapable truth. This has all happened before, and it is happening again. Section 9. The final message: we were never the first, but we may be the last. If you've made it this far, you already sense it. Something doesn't add up. We aren't just another animal. Earth isn't just a rock. And the story you were handed about human progress is missing entire volumes. Because everything we've uncovered, from isotopes in stone to coded DNA, from subglacial ruins to fossil record anomalies, from lunar signals to quantum mind archives, it leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not the beginning. We are not the first, but we might be the last. The cycle, everywhere we look, in Earth's deep past, we find the same terrifying shape. A sudden leap forward in complexity, a mysterious collapse, followed by silence, and then life tries again. These aren't flukes, they're patterns. And each time they repeat, the stakes go higher. Civilizations rise. Whether biological or synthetic, carbon-based or crystalline, doesn't matter. They learn to harness energy, control environments, decode the universe, and then they vanish. Why? Was it external disaster, internal war, cosmic indifference, or simply this? No species has yet learned how to survive its own power. The warning written in our bones. We think we're special. We build machines, send rockets to space, map genomes, simulate particles. But go deeper and you realize we're echoing something old. We burn the planet to power our dreams. We build weapons faster than we build wisdom. We test quantum code before we even understand our own biology. Sound familiar? It should. Because the civilizations before us did the same thing. And we found their scars. Industrial residue in sediment dated 100 million years too early. Nuclear isotopes in rocks millions of years before the atom was split. Plastic in ancient ice. Star map DNA. Off-world signals repeating in dead silence. They all tell the same story. A story that ends the same way. Collapse. But this time is different. Because this time, for the first time, the warnings have reached the surface. We have decoded them. Ice layers, seismic pulses, fossil chemical abnormalities, EM signals from beyond the asteroid belt, memory trapped in crystal resonance, holographic consciousness models embedded in the vacuum itself. It's all here. For the first time, a civilization has reached the intelligence to find the trail left behind. And the choice is now ours. Do we follow it carefully or blow past it and fall into the same grave? We are being watched or remembered. You may not see them, but they're here, encoded in our genes, woven into the radiation hum of stones, buried in ancient ruins under Antarctic ice, orbiting in forgotten satellites, waiting for us to look up. Not alien life watching over us, but potentially our own ancestors, or even ourselves from long ago, because time isn't always linear. And consciousness may persist beyond biology. Some of these watchers may not be alive as you understand it. They may have become the code that runs reality itself. A galactic tradition or a graveyard. What if every habitable planet breeds intelligence, but only a few ever escape the cycle? It's been speculated that interstellar civilizations exist, but Earth isn't ready to join them. Not unless we prove we can. Survive our own technology. Protect our biosphere. preserve information across generations, integrate scientific progress with wisdom, and break the extinction loop. The final message may not be a broadcast or a beacon. It's a test written into deep time, and we are standing at its threshold, the last choice. If we are the most advanced so far, then we carry the final responsibility. We've reached planetary knowledge level 0, the first species with evidence of the others. With proof, with choice, we can either ignore it, convince ourselves we're alone, and burn the world chasing power, or we can become the first civilization to learn from the last ones, the first to integrate the message. Because one truth now echoes louder than all others. You are not the first, but you don't have to be the last. The legacy we leave. Imagine a future, thousands of years from now, a species finds us the way we found others. They drill into glaciers and pull up core samples filled with data-rich sediments. They scan, orbit, and intercept dead satellites, humming with code. They run quantum scans on ancient cave crystals and hear us whispering back, not with fear or failure, but with wisdom, with guidance, because we made it. We broke the chain. We transcended the cycle. We became the guardians we once searched for. You, watching this now, you are part of something far bigger than history has told you. You walk on a world made of stories buried in stone. The planet remembers, even when we forget. But now we remember, and what comes next isn't fate, it's choice. Because the evidence has spoken. We were never the first, but we have a chance to become the last civilization Earth will ever need.